We started a program called Guns to Gardens in New Mexico where we were taking unwanted firearms and then forging them into gardening tools. Much of it was inspired by the artist Pedro Reyes in Mexico City. He was turning firearms into huge shovels. So back in 2015, we started a program called Guns to Gardens. Other people were doing very similar work. So then we all came together under Guns to Gardens as a collective. Now it's a national program. When I found out that Pedro was going to Site Santa Fe, I called and I said, "You don't know me, but I have a crazy story," because he was going to be bringing his shovels. And I said, "We actually started a program inspired by Pedro." She said, "Wow, that's amazing. I'm about to see Pedro. I need to tell him about this." Well, Pedro couldn't believe it. He was like, because as an artist, sometimes you feel like you're working in a vacuum. So you don't know how you've influenced somebody else. So he couldn't believe that this little gun violence prevention nonprofit was cutting up thousands of firearms and turning them into gardening tools based on something he had done. Pedro and I met, and I'm like, I'm meeting my hero. I couldn't believe it. He then had this idea because his exhibition was called Direct Action. And he said, what if we did this? Because we were working with students at RFK High School in Albuquerque who see a lot of gun violence. And they were the ones that were forging. And he said, what if I taught them how to make vases out of the gun parts, and we sold those at an auction at Site Santa Fe and have 100% of the proceeds go to your next gun buyback? He literally worked with the kids together via Zoom and was teaching them how to design them and put them together with Jeremy in person, helping them with the hands-on part of it. When Pedro and I were doing that work, that school lost 2 students to gun violence. It was a horrible shooting by 2 other teenagers. And it wasn't at the school, but they went to the school. So the teenagers wanted to create musical instruments in honor of these 2 students. I reached out to Pedro again. I said, "Pedro, could you help teach them how to make those electric guitars?" So via Zoom, he helped teach them how to build an electric guitar. And then the students took it even further and on their own figured out how to also weld and forge a working xylophone in honor of the 2 students that had died. We had started a program back in 2016 where we had been working with a lot of students on the student pledge against gun violence, and what we kept hearing from them was, we want more. We want to do more when it comes to gun violence prevention. So I got this crazy idea to do gun violence prevention murals in schools. Everybody said there's no way, not in NRA-loving New Mexico would anybody ever let you do a gun violence prevention mural in school. We are now about to begin our 17th gun violence prevention mural. We work with Warren Montoya from Resonate Art. We've been working with youth where they, from beginning to end, will design the mural and paint it. Sometimes Warren will design his own, so that's when we did an unveiling at the San Pedro Library in Albuquerque. And in that mural, we also added an augmented reality component, so the names of people we've lost come alive. Jessica Helen Lopez, our New Mexico Poet Laureate, wrote a piece for us on gun violence and how it needs to end. And so you hear her voice with the names, with the music. And when we did the unveiling, we left a portion of the wall with a beautiful rose where people could write the names. And there were about 250 people. We had a special marker, and we said if anybody has a name of somebody they want to honor that they've lost to gun violence, in 10 minutes the whole wall was covered with over 100 names of people who have been lost to gun violence. And it was just an example of how through the arts we can come together and heal and fix this problem, the leading cause of death for our children. We need these messages of nonviolence on as many walls as we can in New Mexico. When we look at the issue of gun violence, it is so divisive, right? It becomes political when it shouldn't be political. People are dying. So the position that New Mexicans to prevent gun violence takes is that it's a multifaceted problem that demands a multi-pronged approach. So is it gun buybacks? Is it educating our youth? Is it bringing people together through the arts? How do we figure out how to fix this problem? Is it training law enforcement, which we do, on how to use our domestic violence firearms relinquishment order or extremist protection order laws? Like these are tools for law enforcement to get those guns out of homes. So we really have to look at gun violence as this multifaceted problem that has many different ways of fixing it.